The Conservative junior minister who was involved in the honey trap sexting scandal will not lose the whip, despite the stupidity of his actions. And I think it's also recognised that he is a victim as well as somebody who has been indiscreet. He's the chairman of a Commons Select Committee, and he was persuaded to give up a number of personal phone numbers of Conservative colleagues, members of the House of Parliament, to a man he met on Grindr. And the vice chairman of the 1922 committee said that he provided the details of the information he surrendered after he had sent what is described as intimate pictures of himself to the user on Grindr. Wragg said that he was scared that the man had compromising things on him. Well, it's the world we live in. People have to be significantly more careful, and those people who have been elected to high office should be briefed and aware that their life has changed. I don't think there's any room for this sort of interaction on things like Grindr and a lot of social media for parliamentarians. I think that form of communication should be probably off limits. This is a thing called spear phishing, and it preys on weakness, but we don't elect people to Parliament on the basis of their vulnerability, though of course in some ways that vulnerability is something to be praised. So now William Wragg has an interesting option. He can keep his head down and hope that this matter disappears, or he can use this to raise awareness of the dangers of social media and the dangers of these platforms. Because the sort of pressures which are placed on people, the blackmail effectively, which is employed, whether the person is identified as Charlie or Abby, doesn't really make any difference. This is still a form of intimidation, and it could happen to anybody. It's not simply a matter of blocking these connections. It's about education, and it's about giving the public a series of steps that can be taken to avoid this sort of sting. Now, part of that might be that you don't send stupid photographs. Part of it might be that we're significantly more careful about the interaction that we've got on social media. But part of it, I think, has to be that there is a higher standard for people who are elected to office. People who are leaders in business, that's their business. That's their business. They haven't been elected. People who are elected, people who put themselves forward for political office, also put themselves forward to be held to a higher standard than the rest of us. And they should be, in many ways, above suspicion. And if they are not, they must find a way to use that. There the reason there are so many scandals in public life is because people, of course, are only human, as Matt Hancock said. Matt Hancock. Oh, let's get this stationery cupboard moving. Let's enter the stationery cupboard and find an HB pencil with a rubber on. Oh, I want to do some filing. But the problem with the stationery cupboard is it's there because people fall below the standards of behavior. And in some cases, they take advantage of the high respect in which they find themselves. I don't think that Wragg has taken advantage of his position. I think instead somebody else has maneuvered into his life and has taken advantage of him. This is stupidity rather than arrogance. But stupidity is dangerous. I remember somebody telling me that they would rather be attacked by a vicious, evil person than by a stupid person, because you cannot know what a stupid person will do next. And I think it's worrying when one of our senior members of Parliament is exposed as a stupid person. I have enormous sympathy for him. I feel great concerns for somebody who is put in such a vulnerable position. But at the same time, I am aware that this is a person who has put himself forward to elected office, and he has behaved with stupidity, and he has compromised himself and others. And that's really sad, because he's a person of potential. But clearly other people who were not out to encourage his good reputation also saw him as a person of potential.